Welcome to Mind Body Besties, your weekly reset with real talk, a little laughter, and the kind of honest conversations you'd have with your closest friend. I'm Caty, a therapist.
And I'm Rachel, a naturopathic doctor. We're here to share the personal stories, struggles, and wins that have shaped our own health and happiness. This isn't a lecture, it's a safe space to slow down, connect, and feel a little more human again. So grab your coffee, get cozy, and let's reset together.
Welcome to the first episode of Mind Body Besties.
Woo-hoo!
I think we're just going to start off telling you guys a little bit about us and how we met, like what we do and who you're getting your information from or your advice from. Rachel?
Yeah. So Caty and I met in college. We were in the coolest sorority ever, Capitol Hills. We were at the very bottom of the big hill at the University of Arkansas campus. So we probably bonded walking in our sweaty clothes up to class every day.
It was a long walk.
Very long walk.
We lived in a room in Capitol with 5 girls, which is wild to me now.
Oh, same, because my sleep has to be perfect.
That's not possible. Not with 5 people, not possible.
No.
So yeah, we became friends through our sorority, and that's how we met.
Yeah. And then Caty ended up actually marrying someone I knew from high school. So small world.
Yeah. So after college, we both did move away for a little while, and now we are both back in Fayetteville. And as soon as Rachel got back in Fayetteville, I was like, hey, we should hang out again. It's been how many years?
So many years.
And so here we are.
And we both ended up in the health sphere, which I think is funny because we weren't really doing that. You were doing like marketing PR stuff.
Yeah.
I was doing print journalism, very thriving, promising field at the time when I graduated in 2014. And so I think it's really interesting that we both found our way to the health sphere.
Yeah, it was a long journey for both of us, but now we're here, and it turns out that our 2 careers work really well together.
And I think we'll want to talk about our journey and share that with you guys because that's an interesting story. I think how we both ended up meandering and changing into that interest. Yeah,
definitely. Do you want to start? What do you do? How'd you get here?
So I am a naturopathic doctor. And right now I work as a health coach. So I can work with people really intimately one-on-one. And I have a very mind, body, spirit lens, which we're going to have on our podcast. Caty's very mind, body, spirit as well. Yes. And so just the holistic health view of things has been really important to me because of my own physical health journey. So I've been sick. I didn't really tell a lot of people when I was going through school or when I was in college.
We had no idea. We just knew that you were on antibiotics a lot. So when we had to go out drinking, you would say, hey, I can't drink.
That's right.
So we knew that like you had something going on, but we didn't really know what.
And so I've had Crohn's diagnosed since I was 14. So I started getting sick when I was about 12. And now that I've gone through a lot of other things since then, with arthritis, while I was in med school, I got mold toxicity and Lyme, found out about a bunch of other infections, had babesia, which is like a parasite malaria infection in your blood, bunch of crazy stuff. And so because of all of that, I went back and I realized that not only have I been struggling with my health since I was a kid, so I have some genetic stuff that contributes to that, but also, I don't know about you. Did you get tick bites all the time when you were little and it was no big deal?
No, because I grew up in Dallas.
Yeah. Concrete jungle.
Yeah. We didn't have ticks. I saw my first tick in Arkansas.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay. So growing up in Missouri, we'd go to summer camps all the time and there were ticks everywhere. And even in my 6th grade public school, we went to this awesome Camp Wyman. I still remember the name of it. And we actually all got tick checked by the nurse at the end because there were so many ticks. And we were literally just running through these prairie fields of grass the whole time. And I got a bad tick bite and it didn't heal for a whole year. And like, we just never thought anything of it because over time, you didn't do anything about that. So looking back, I've definitely connected that and some mold exposures I've had in my life in different houses we've lived in. And that definitely triggered things for me. Actually, in college, when I got really sick and I was having to see all these doctors every week, my senior year, I'm thinking back and I realized that apartment had mold 100%.
I'm sure lots of them did because they were all old.
Yes.
The Cap Adult house was old, like
Definitely,
creepy,
definitely had mold.
old.
Don't worry, they renovated it now.
It's brand new now. It has elevators.
Right after we left.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I imagine, everywhere we lived had mold, I'm sure.
Yeah, 1000%. So because of that, I not only wanted to learn about holistic health because my autoimmunity, but then I also wanted to learn what about all this weird mold, Lyme complex stuff that even most naturopathic doctors didn't have a good answer for. So that really took me down some rabbit holes. And I went into the realm where everything is really complex. And I feel like I'd finally come out the other end where I can distill everything down. And even though the picture is complex, the path can still be really simple. So that's what I'm embracing today is simplicity and still having a holistic view, but making things as simple as possible.
Very cool. I love
Yeah.
that. And then I'm a therapist.
Tell yours. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a therapist, a mental health therapist. I own a group practice and I sometimes don't know how I got here. So in college, like you said, I got my degree in ad PR. After college, I had some marketing jobs. I hated them. I got super lost and didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I called my dad, who was a probation officer in Dallas. And that's what my mom did too. And I said, "Hey, Dad, can you get me a job as a probation officer?" So I went and did that in Dallas for about a year and then ended up moving back to Arkansas and became a probation and parole officer in Arkansas. It turns out in Arkansas, you are law enforcement, like legitimate law enforcement. You wear a uniform, you carry a gun. And I was like, oh no, this isn't it. Like, I can't do this for that long. And I started to realize that a lot of these people on my caseload had mental health issues. They were having manic episodes and they would go commit a crime, but they had no idea that they were having a manic episode. I only knew because I was already just really interested in mental health. And I thought that I'm seeing a pattern here. Or people were incredibly depressed, anxious, and they were coping with alcohol and drugs. And as you can imagine, addiction is really hard to break out of. And you start doing crazy things to go get drugs. You end up in jail and there's no one to help you. So I became friends with the substance abuse counselors at our office. And one day I was like, hey, I think I want to be a therapist. How do I do that? And they were like, there's a program at the University of Arkansas. You can get a master's in counseling. And I looked that up and I have never applied for anything so fast in my entire life.
I love that.
And I learned so much about mental health in general, about me. I started connecting dots like, oh, you're really anxious. This isn't something that normal people go through. And after like reflecting on my life, I was like, okay, I've got really bad anxiety that I was on Zoloft for because I didn't know what was going on. I had a fair bit of trauma in my childhood, so my mom died when I was 12. There were a lot of sick people that lived in my house. Grandma, grandpa, uncle, all of them had cancer. All of them died in our house. And then in college, I also didn't realize it at the time, but I absolutely had an eating disorder and realized later, oh, okay. So I've had quite a few things going on myself through my counseling program, just learned a lot and I love what I do now. Now I specialize in OCD and I do exposure therapy with people mostly, but I work with all different kinds of people. That's just what I like to be super nerdy about.
I love that.
So that's how I got here.
I love it. Took a while. And I think what's really interesting is I had the same experience in grad school where you learn so much about yourself and self-growth. And there were exams like when we're learning how to do pap smears and testicular exams. And like you go through a lot mentally and you understand, what am I scared of? Why am I reacting this way? Like you understand who you are more for going through. I think grad school just does that no matter what the program is.
Yeah. And then I think as both of us started working in our fields, we started connecting a lot of dots between, there's a lot of overlap between physical health and mental health.
Yes.
And also, not all mental health issues are just mental health issues. They can stem from physical issues like deficiencies and things or chronic illness.
Yeah.
And so it's only treating one of them is usually not the most effective way to get
Yeah.
that like mind, body, spirit holistic treatment. So the two of us together can do a lot more than either one of us just alone.
Yeah. Because not all physical things you can just resolve by physical look. We
Exactly.
store emotions in the body. We get anxiety about symptoms, even if our symptoms happen first. And then we actually can't heal our physical bodies until we tackle our mind. And I'll add to that the intersection for me personally. I had generalized anxiety and social anxiety a little bit, like in high school. And then I feel like I grew out of it. And then when I was in Portland, going to naturopathic med school, living in a place with black mold that I did not know because I did not know about mold yet. And I started having my first panic attack. I had never had a panic attack in my life.
They're scary.
They're scary. And you feel like you can't breathe. And I had nothing to be anxious about. Like my life in general was stressful just because I was going through the primary intern and the clinic and all this stuff. But I was just like laying down watching TV and I started having a random panic attack. And it turns out it was because I was in this moldy home and mold causes histamine, which causes panic attacks.
Yeah.
And so that really connected the dots for me. And after my whole experience with chronic inflammation, and yes, mine came from infections and mold, but it could be whatever is causing the inflammation. Because it's affecting the body, it's also affecting the brain. So once I started having an inflamed brain, I started having ADHD tendencies, less executive function, so hard to make decisions. Everything felt like a big deal. And I probably would have tested positive if I'd taken an ADHD test. And so I think that's really interesting because it makes me wonder how many people out there have ADHD and are actually just having brain inflammation.
Yeah. And brain health is like finally starting to come to the forefront of things. I've listened to lots of podcasts and it's like that term brain on fire. When your brain's on fire, lots of stuff in your body isn't going to work.
Your hormones shut down. Everything shuts down.
And your mind's not going to be right either because all of your dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine is going to be off. And then you start feeling crazy.
And you start having OCD tendencies or doing whatever because your dopamine is so low.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it all relates. And I am so excited that we have this podcast to talk about all of this because this has been really life-changing for us and even just the people that we work with. And I think if more people knew this, the world could truly be a better place because we would have more control. We'd be more empowered over our health. We'd be able to be our best, healthiest, highest selves. So we'd be acting from the best place we can. So I feel like the holistic view, I'm so glad people are into holistic stuff now. It's trendy now, and I love that.
I do too. You sound a lot less like crazy to other people when you're like, hey, did you hear about this thing? We still have a long way to go in the US.
Yeah.
Traditional medicine, which there's nothing wrong with it. It just is still very compartmentalized. And so you've got to see this person, then this person. But when you can get it all working together, which is our goal here, and to teach you guys, if you're stuck and don't know who to see, we can at least give you some idea of who you could go see, what tests you might need, just to help your doctor along a little bit.
What supplements to consider.
Yeah. In some states, depending on where you live, you may have more access to this stuff. And in other states, you might need to advocate for yourself a little bit more to get what you need. So we want to help you guys do that too.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a lot about brain health. And I think the brain is the cool intersection where all of these things come together, with your brain being like the CEO of your whole body, because there's the physical side of brain health. And then you have your mental health side of your brain health. And then we have all the hormones and things that your brain controls and all the signals it's sending to your peripheral nerves on the outside tips of your fingers, everywhere else in your body. And so our brain is like the central coordinator behind everything. So I think a lot of people who are struggling with mental health or who are having physical symptoms and they don't know why, I think they're playing whack-a-mole with each thing that pops up instead of just going straight upstream to the main source, which is the brain. So we want to help people heal their brains.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's what we want to do. And let's throw out some of our episode ideas so people have an idea of what we are going to be talking about.
Yeah, I know we mentioned mold and we mentioned ADHD. So we're definitely going to dive into those because those are really hot topics.
Like women's health, hormones, fertility, chronic illness in general.
Different attachment styles, homeopathy, acupuncture. Going to talk about things like electrolytes and minerals. They
Yeah.
affect your mental health a lot too. And then we're going to talk about things like trauma bonding and nervous system regulation, which I know is really popular right now. And even stuff like parasite cleansing, we might talk about because that also affects your brain. And then we'll also be able to touch on what could be going on with the holistic picture behind a lot of different mental health diagnoses.
Yeah.
So if you've been given a diagnosis of bipolar or BPD, or if you're worried about getting dementia in the future, then we might be able to walk through some holistic stuff that might be helpful for you.
Yeah. And I can definitely talk about trends that I've seen among clients and them finding out they're deficient in this one thing. And then they take some supplements, they do some other like lifestyle changes, and they're no longer depressed. Their OCD is much better.
And then I'm going to talk about some cases where people have had chronic symptoms for a really long time. And although the symptoms are very real, there is often a learned brain pattern. So doing some specific therapy techniques can actually help people stop their physical symptoms. So interconnected. Give me a great podcast. Let's dive into like our current information about us a little bit. Like, what's your current day-to-day life?
Okay. Yeah. I was born in Dallas, lived in Dallas my whole life, only child. I mentioned this before. My mom had lung cancer. She passed away when I was 12. So it was just me and my dad for a while. My dad got remarried. My stepmom was really great. She unfortunately had dementia and she also passed away. So like this pattern of people dying in my life is very real. And now I'm married. I met my husband in college and in economics class, and he is an economics professor now. And we have a little girl. She is 13 months now. And that has taught me a lot. It's taught me a lot about myself. And now I'm also very interested in brain health for infants and toddlers and how to support her, and also how to just set her up for success with her physical health, her mental health, and learning like how to parent in the most effective way and turn her into a good little member of society that has no behavioral issues.
Aw.
So that's become my new focus. It's like a whole new identity for me. I'm a mom now. I'm a business owner and therapist and a mom. So that's just been a huge learning experience for me.
Yeah. And you have great insight into the fertility journey, which I think is great.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll get into that on another episode, but I had a very hard time having a baby. So we'll talk about that. And there were lots of there's the mental side of that. And then there were a lot of physical health things that I had to work on to make that work.
Yeah, that'll be a great topic. And that's one of my focuses is women's health and fertility. So that'll be, we'll definitely touch on
You
that.
had just gotten like back to Fayetteville and I was like, hey, so I'm having this fertility problem.
Yes.
Can you help me? Yeah. And then I ended up getting pregnant. So we didn't have so much because I'd been working on it. But I was like, hey, do you know what's wrong with me?
And I think it's so relatable because fertility issues are increasing every year at a drastic exponential rate. So I think that'll be a really good thing for us to talk about. For me, I grew up in St. Louis. And then when I was 14, we moved. My dad actually teaches down the hall from Caty's husband. So that's pretty funny. So we moved here for my dad to teach in the business department at the University of Arkansas. And it was a stressful move. So that definitely probably helped exacerbate some health things that had begun. And so there were a lot of complications, and I had to have a 504 plan when I was in high school so that I could eat snacks when I needed to and all this stuff. So there was a lot of complex stuff going on when I was in high school. I was having to drive down to Little Rock every other weekend and take a ton of Benadryl to get my infusions every weekend, all through high school. And then I had to do that in college. But by then I was figuring out how to get some infusions closer here so I didn't have to drive so far. And then I took an MS med when I was in college. I legitimately don't remember much of my middle 2 years of college because I was on this med that affected my brain. So speaking of brain health, that was wild. I really liked going to University of Arkansas. I wasn't sure about it, and it
Yeah.
ended up being a great choice. I ended up getting to travel a ton with my scholarship, and so I've had a lot of cool travel experiences. Definitely where I probably picked up some of my parasites as well, traveling. So
Did you
has
go
its
to,
pros and cons.
did you go to Argentina?
Yeah, I was there
Okay.
for 6 months. Yeah,
Okay.
that one was awesome. So maybe that will come up at some point too, because there's
Yeah.
been some cool stuff that happened there. And then after college, I decided to go do AmeriCorps for 2 years, which is like Peace Corps, but staying in the US because I still needed to get my meds for my Crohn's. And so I chose the Bay Area, just south of San Francisco, worked in a very underfunded middle school. And that really shaped me because I thought I had just graduated in print journalism. I was on a track to work for a really big paper, and then they canceled their program because the budget. So all the budget cuts were happening the year after I graduated, and all the international reporters were going away too, which had been what I wanted to do. So I was like, I really like teaching. Like my dad teaches, maybe I want to teach. And then after my 2 years substitute teaching and being like an admin in the middle school, I was like, nope, I actually don't want to teach. That's not for me. So that saved me a path there.
It's funny how so many kids end up choosing one of their parents' path.
You're right.
And
Yeah.
that it's because it's modeled for you and it seems safe. So you choose that. And then so
Yeah.
many times that kid
Not
is
a
like,
good fit.
this is not it. But you learn something. You learn what you don't want to do.
I did.
Yeah.
And that's been a really valuable part of my life, which I know we had mentioned talking about that too in our podcast is, how we've unlearned all of these things that we inherited, all these beliefs from our family or from society and sorted through what's ours, what's not ours, so we can fully grow into ourselves and be our most authentic selves and our full identity. Yeah. But yeah, I did AmeriCorps. I was like, okay, this is not for me. Got a little burnt out with the volunteering. You make $9,000 a year after taxes. So that was insane. So I did that for 2 years. And that's a whole nother thing because you start out behind your peers who have been saving and like working in the job space when you come back. So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do because I always wanted to write about health. And I was like, there's so many fads out there. There's so many catchy headlines. There's conflicting information. Coffee's good for you. Coffee's bad for you. I didn't know what the truth was, and I really wanted to know and understand it. So my aunt actually suggested that I look into holistic health, and I hadn't even thought about being a naturopathic doctor. But once I saw that, I was like, yes, that's what I want to do. Toured the school. There's only 5 in the US, so I picked the one in Portland, Oregon that I liked the most. Went out there. I had just met my husband doing my prereqs for med school. We were assigned to be physics lab partners at NWAC, the community college here. I know. I wish it was chemistry, so we could be like, there was chemistry. And then we actually didn't plan to date after we moved there, but we ended up doing long distance for 2 years. Nothing like that to prove to you someone wants to be with you.
Yeah,
Pretty great.
Yeah.
And then he moved out and we lived together in Oregon, and that was great. And then we got married a few years ago, and we have a great puppy, Shirley. No kids. I'm still working through that with the chronic illness stuff, which might be a great thing to discuss at some point.
Sure.
That's been a lot on my mind. But yeah, definitely love my dog, and I work from home, so I get to spend a lot of time with her. But yeah, I feel like a lot of what's happened in our lives and what's happened to us and what we chose for ourselves has shaped us. And I don't know about you, I feel pretty happy where I ended up.
Yeah, I do too. It took much longer than I think society tells you it will take.
Same.
But I also think it's crazy that at 18, you're supposed to go to college and decide what you want to do with
your
life.
prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed.
No, that's 25.
Yeah.
So I think I didn't start my master's until I was 28. So it took me until 28 years old to figure out what I wanted to do. Now I'm 33. So
there you go.
34.
I didn't know I wanted to go to med school until I was 25, I think. Yeah.
So if you're in the same spot, you have time. It's not too late to figure out what you want to do. You have time. And honestly, I think it's really helpful to go through the experiences of finding out what you don't want, because then you appreciate where you end up.
I think I would have always wondered what it would be like to teach if I hadn't tried it out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, same. I thought I was going to be a big marketing group, and turns out I hate that. I'm not actually very good at it either.
So I hope you guys find us, because we're not going to know how to market this. And I'm just kidding. Yeah. I think that's a good amount of info
Yeah.
for us to share here for our first episode with you guys. And we're just really excited to basically build a little community by having a podcast.
Take you guys along for the ride and
Yeah.
hopefully you learn something along the way.
And you can learn from our mistakes. You don't have to do them. Stay tuned for the next one. And I hope everyone has a great day.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly reset. If you loved hanging out with us today, subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share this with a friend who could use a little calm and connection too.
This show is for education and inspiration, not medical advice. To learn more or connect with us, check out the show notes below. Until next time, take care of your mind, your body, and your heart.